In this video, we're going to take an insider's tour of New Orleans' most famous cemetery, and then meet up with the ex-singer of Black Flag, Louisiana punk rock legend, Dave Turgeon.
You know, hey, we're gonna be great buddies. All you gotta do is fucking go. Right, we're smoking pot right now. There's a pot smoking thing going on right now.
Who not only showed us his quote, Noah's Ark style homemade houseboat, but then granted us access to his family's private cemetery, which just so happens to sit on top of an ancient Native American ceremonial mound complex. In visiting these places, we will highlight the conscious or unconscious continuation of ancient American funerary culture right up into the present day, demonstrating that places like New Orleans, which is below sea level to begin with, display an innate and palpable connection with mythological underworlds and the dead. Now enjoy.
Welcome to Florida, baby.
Introducing Dr. Narco Longo.
On my way back from viewing the solar eclipse of October 2023 at an astrological conference in Texas, of which I was also a speaker, my girlfriend and I were passing through New Orleans, so I put out a notice on Instagram and received some tips, leads, and offers. A guy by the name of Gary reached out, whom I had a good feeling about, and it turned out his offer entailed precisely what we had already wanted to see in the city: a good old-fashioned graveyard. For those not aware, New Orleans is world famous for its cemeteries, which are, as a rule, aesthetically and architecturally superior to most of the living, breathing city itself. Some know this swampy, jazz-covered outpost as Crescent City. Others have termed it the Big Easy. But our nation's greatest literary giant, Mark Twain, most accurately termed New Orleans as the cities of the dead. And yes, he intended the plurality of that title, as New Orleans is home to a multitude of burial grounds, both modern and ancient. Another factor which contributed to that nickname was the fact that, as you will see shortly, caskets are frequently laid to rest above ground in New Orleans. The high water table and lack of elevation make it impossible for graves to be dug 6 feet deep, as they are in the majority of the world today. This easy access to graves fostered an intense culture of not only grave digging, but ritualistic usage of bones and corpses. As I'm sure many of you are aware, New Orleans is the unofficial voodoo capital of America. All criminal activity to the side, in New Orleans, it is perfectly normal for entire skeletons of loved ones to be removed from their tombs after only a year, so that they can be pulverized. They then put the pulverized bits of bone back in the tomb, thus having made room for more family bodies. Even small tombs may host dozens of bodies this way. For these reasons and others, grand mausoleums have remained in fashion there right up into the present day. Also, mausoleums are a staple of Freemasonry. We met up with Gary at Metairie Cemetery, and he introduced us to his girlfriend Rebecca, who used to work at Cash Money Studios and has an intimate knowledge of the graveyard. There are many videos on YouTube giving the official history of this cemetery, but it suffices here to say that the graveyard was originally once a racetrack. Sometime after the Civil War, American businessman and organizer of the Louisiana State Lottery, Charles T. Howard, applied for membership to the Metairie Jockey Club, but was rejected. Howard pledged in retaliation that he would one day turn that racetrack into a graveyard. In 1872, the track went bankrupt, so Charles purchased it and kept his word. The design of the cemetery even follows the original oval shape of the track. A writer for a New Orleans newspaper penned the following in 1877, quote, "Undoubtedly, the Metairie Cemetery is destined to be the great necropolis of the South. As far as its location, ornaments, care, and poetry are concerned, we say that this great city of the dead is unrivaled." End quote. Not during my whole time in New Orleans, nor anywhere on the internet, has a single person remarked on the fact that the name Metairie can be found in the second half of the word cemetery itself. Metairie, cemetery. There is no official link between these two words, as per the internet or our linguists and dictionaries. We then all split up a bit and wandered, but Gary and Rebecca visited the grave of an old friend and unintentionally snapped a pretty remarkable photo. I wouldn't find this out until later. One particular gravesite had growing from it the healthiest rosemary that I had ever seen. The amount of oil left on the hands after rubbing a stalk exceeded that of any rosemary I have encountered. We all agreed it was the most robust and fragrant plant of that species. There are many who believe a human corpse is the best fertilizer or plant growth enhancer known to man. I have heard it said in Florida that a human, deer, or dog can add a couple years' worth of growth to a young tree. Even in the raised bed, perhaps not having access to the nutrients provided by corpses, some would argue that the spirits of the dead nourish plant life in their own way. We must also note the prevalence of people today who wish for their loved ones to plant them into a tree or have a flower bed come out of their grave, things like that. We see that all the time today. After seeing a majority of the cemetery, Gary and Rebecca told me that they wanted to show us a burial mound in the middle of a private cemetery a couple towns over, and that they had an additional surprise, something involving a Noah's Ark. We agreed to meet them at another location, but first grabbed some lunch at a delicious vegetarian soul food restaurant named Etal Garden. New Orleans food is as delicious as the less criminal forms of sin, once said Mark Twain. We then arrived at Cousin Dave's house, who, as they had begun to tell me, was actually a New Orleans punk rock legend. David Slut Turgeon, or simply D. Slut, has been the lead singer and core member of the Sluts since the 1980s. Songs penned by the Sluts include Fuck You, Cunning Linguist, Gator Rockin', Nuke the Whales, Chicken Stickin'.
He likes chicken the same way I like chicken, right? That's some tight freaking shit there, right? We love y'all, man. Look, everybody grab a chicken and fuck it, because it's good shit.
And Poor Blacks, a song that many in the punk scene have asked him to never sing again, but he insists he will till the day he dies. In reference to his song, Mom's Cunt, Dave told Vice magazine in 2014 that, quote, "My mother would come out to see us, and she never took it personally. Black Flag stayed at my mom's house and shit. She was a good band mom," end quote. Around 1980 or 81, when Black Flag's then singer, Dez, made a switch to guitar, the spot opened up, and Dave Turgeon became the burgeoning band's frontman. Dave played a number of shows with Black Flag, and even made some recordings. The Sluts were just playing a lot of big shows in New Orleans, with all the touring punk bands, Turgeon told Vice magazine. That's how we got to know the Minutemen. We did, I think, 3 tours in California, some of them just us, some shows with Black Flag. I was back in New Orleans, working on a Sluts tour, when Chuck Dukowski and Greg called me and said they wanted to put their singer, Dezo Cadena, back on rhythm guitar, so Greg could kind of go crazy on his, and have just a frontman singer. So they flew me up to New York, and we recorded the album that was Damaged, end quote. As fate would have it, Turgeon was replaced by none other than Henry Rollins, at which point the band found what could be considered, in the punk scene, major success. All I was told about Cousin Dave's project was that it was a modern-day Noah's Ark, so we really had no idea what to expect.
Cousin Dave is quite the character. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Taking it fun, Dave. Keeping it fun. This is how we do. You're from Florida.
So this floats. I built this. It floats. That's how you deal with hurricanes.
It goes up and down.
Oh, I love what you did with the driftwood,
You
Dave.
like that? I'm
Oh,
getting
that's
it.
awesome.
I'm getting it there.
Oh, super killer. Please, y'all have a
Grab a
seat. Yeah.
seat. We can sit outside if y'all want. I just have to get in here.
Yes, I do. In fact, I'm working on a painting in the cemetery right now.
Aww.
But it's been such a hot summer.
But a buddy of mine who builds all these things out of ammo.
Wow.
Like,
Oh, no,
that's
shit!
good.
Stickiest!
So he showed me his latest
about my
deals, and he goes, "Man, I got this. I got a new press, so I can drill out the top." And he showed me his little collection of pallets, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's brilliant!"
Wow.
You like to smoke pot?
What's that?
You like to smoke pot?
Oh, I love to smoke pot.
I think we got some gifts for you too.
So I just got the wiring done this week. So I got like a
Well, the water looks really great in here.
Got the cabinets kind of put in, kind of. And I bought a piece of art. You like it? That's good? You like that?
Yeah, I won't replace Trump forever, but that's okay.
I had the most miserable experience. They pulled 2 teeth a couple days ago. And evidently I am what's known as an excessive bleeder. Because they had me if I was supposed to check that, and I didn't check it. I'm like, no, well, you know, and I didn't think about it until I bled for 20 hours.
Oh, shit!
I was like, you know, my back surgery, the guy said he had a lot of trouble stopping the bleed. So I was hardly walking, and then they cut me from here to here, and they did brilliant work and prayed with the doctors before we did it. Everything worked out great.
400,000% later.
Reggie's fundraiser.
Oh, do you ever see him?
Reggie's fundraising. He's got cancer. Everyone gets cancer nowadays.
He wishes I'd break this bird leg.
And November 4th is Aunt Prissy's funeral, so
yep, I got the 4th mark.
Be here.
Rebecca had told Cousin Dave that we planned on coming to see their family's private cemetery, but Dave went on to tell us that a recent tragedy would have to delay our visit an hour or so.
No, a friend of mine's cousin was murdered. They found her body 2 days ago. And that's the family over at the cemetery right now. Because I picked out a spot for them. Because they were like, oh, we like that place that you showed us. We're going to go over there. And then when you said you're over there, and then you said someone was there, I was like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah. Yeah, and
also,
it's not that you're not allowed to be there. It's just,
I also felt you weren't letting people bury there anymore.
Well,
it's too crowded.
These are Indians.
Oh, yeah.
So they get whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
That's the way we work that one. And remember my friend Anthony? The little drunk guy that
maybe
barely walked, right?
Many of your friends resemble that description. But
he was like my best buddy, okay? He was another retired guy that liked to drink beer in the morning. It's his cousin, okay? She first was reported missing, and the police didn't really take it seriously, and then Walmart called the police and said, there's this shiny black Mustang with no license plate in the middle of our parking lot here, okay? We're closing. There it is, okay? So the police come out and they go, oh, why, she was reported missing. Maybe there is something to this, because she was a wild one who was getting her act together, kind of thing, so they don't want to think people can get their shit together, so they didn't want to really look for her, and the family starts blowing up social media with, they found their car, this is bad, something's really wrong, and someone got scared that was close to it and called in a tip saying, well, you might find her here or there. And they went here and didn't find her here, so they went there and they found her there wrapped up. And the family had said in their post, her shower curtain is missing, her comforter is missing, the blanket that we gave her with all the grandkids' faces on it is missing, and the big butcher knife missing out of the butcher block. And when I guess they realized, oh shit, they're on to us or something, and so some guy called in, thank God, because they got the body, you know. And that's, I got a friend of mine that never found his sister, you know, and it's just a horrible unknown shit, and very traumatic for this town because everybody knows everybody and everybody's related in one way or another, and people from here just don't get murdered. We don't get murdered, you know. We drive our cars into trees and go off into the ditch and die like that, or flip our four-wheeler, but not violent. Stuff like that.
We are known to burn your brain cells, but that's where we cut it off.
That's it. That's it. I mean, I was drinking with a friend of mine at the bar. They just opened since the storm. They just reopened it, and 2 hours later, he was dead. Riding his four-wheeler home. They came to pick him up. Goose, you just started drinking. We're going to give you a ride home. No, I got it. I'm going to beat you there. Jumps on his four-wheeler, hauls ass off 2 blocks from his house, flips his four-wheeler, and he's dead in the street. And one of my kid's friends was killed on his motorcycle a week ago, running into a friend of his and my kid's friend, running into his trailer. We had a very violent couple weeks down here. And the murder is the thing that has just topped everything off. But just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, put your knife through the chest. But they got her and they made one arrest. The family wants the guy that the informant arrested too. And I'm not saying anything, but I'm thinking I'd kind of send him a dozen roses and thank him, you know, because you get your body back. You wouldn't have gotten a body back with any kind of information. Right, you get some closure, and also you got a bunch of stuff for the police to work with. Okay, so maybe we get a conviction out of this. But then, when they also had found the family. Now, the family did this. The police did it. Okay, the family goes, they find the missing things. Then, like the next day, they find the body, okay? Like, this guy got scared quick and called, which is wonderful. But the family goes back to the house to see if anything else. There's blood spots. Look, this little bitty blood. Look, there's a blood smudge over here, okay? Come on, cops, don't y'all watch TV? I can do a better investigation than this. I mean, really.
The family discovered that?
The family has done all the discovery except for finding the body. So, but that's what's going on at the cemetery. I'm sure they won't be there forever, and you want the sun to go down a little bit, and you get much better pictures over there.
There was only one. There's what you pay for.
Need a bite? Check them out, huh?
You do it.
Let me see.
It's an oyster.
I gotta live this long and never
Oh,
smell that.
shit.
Oh, yeah, and you know what?
Before.
They're all
All of a sudden,
different.
Gary's taking pottery
They're all
classes
different.
again.
Because I went up there when I went tailgating.
Oh my God, prison pottery is never gonna be the same.
Evan's girlfriend was like, "Yeah, I got you this." That's so awesome. And then when we went up there to tailgate, she got one on their table, but it's different than mine. I'm like, "Wait, yours is different." She goes, "They're all different. Every one of them's unique."
Oh,
It
that's
smells so
wonderful.
good.
Got you covered, bro.
So basically, I'm retired. That bayou goes in and then it goes out every day, and it's probably my favorite thing to do is to watch it. I think they got a song, right? Watch it. Sitting on the dock of a bay, right? Watching the tide roll away, right?
That's the caveat. Alright, I see that sun tilting down. I think we should I think it's safe to go down the cemetery.
Right, we're smoking pot right now. There's a pot smoking thing going on right now. Okay.
After some time spent smoking pot through an oyster shell, Dave gave us the all clear. So we drove on down the road to see the graveyard and mound complex. Pulling up, it was even more eerie than we had imagined, and far more picturesque. Rebecca's father is buried in the shell midden itself, and much of her and Dave's family have been laid to rest amongst the ancient mound complex. They had already shared so much, so I didn't want to ask too many questions about ancient history.
Before all saints, but when our father chose to be buried underneath this gigantic Bible, it's on the edge, almost to the top of an Indian, of what they say is a 2,000-year-old Indian mound. But we moved Shorty from his original location to here. Now Shorty died first, and my daddy had engraved a good dog. And when my father died, I decided what we should say is a good man. Nobody got the joke until we planted Shorty here, that it's a good man and a good dog buried together, and the dog has the finer stone. That's life. That's life in South Louisiana. The dog deserved it. Both y'all motherfuckers died too young. Get some early cleaning done. And I love some green beans. But you should see what it looks like, all lit up. People bring candles, votive candles, and all the tombs are lit. People even come around and light them for strangers. But I was told once not to ever do it in front of a child's grave. No, don't do that. They said, why not? So, it's a baby, and no sin. And we hated that the airboat tours find this place so popular, but it's the only reason we're glad they built the wall.
That's a tree.
How old do we think this tree is?
David Hunt, gosh. Can't just go by its face. My father was an arborist. Hey Dave, how old would you say this tree is? Very, very old. So just look at. He says well over 200. I give it longer. Look at this root. It's making up pure art. The view from here is just magnificent. Yes. Our family, different members buried behind this large shrubbery. But you can see it from here. And if the third one was over there, that's where Dave described the huge slope. So I think that's where another mound was, and over right next to the bayou, the third. This is the first. There's no way anybody's going to tell me this was a bunch of oyster shells. My cousin Dave, on the other hand.
Right as we were about to leave, Rebecca rediscovered a headstone that she thought had been lost.
Who is it?
Little Oscar.
Here's little Oscar.
Here's little Oscar. Little Oscar lies beneath this sod, stricken by the hand of Almighty God. That's all about little Oscar.
Little Oscar lies beneath the sod, stricken down by the hand of the Almighty God. That's right. He was the illegitimate son of Berthoud, and so he wasn't buried at the bottom of the mound where the slaves were, but he wasn't buried up at the top either. He was buried about halfway down the mid.
mulatto son of the plantation owner, Mr. Bertude, who's buried at the top of the mound. About half the distance from where the slaves were buried. Oh, cheers to you, Oscar. They come. They go. I'm so glad I can come back and do a rubbing. So Dave, I was trying to tell the young doctor in the house about the history of the Fleming Cemetery from Mr. Bertude on.
Well, and even probably before Bertude was one time when you pull in the cemetery. And on the right, you got that big midden, right, with the big tree on it. Okay, so you got one midden, and then there's a big parking area, a big open field area, and like a little bump to the left where my family's buried. And then way further, it kind of slopes up. And at one time, there were 3 middens there, like the Aztecs and stuff. They did those 3 things, and they were placed in a specific way.
For Orion.
And you look at all the roads through the plantation, it was shell roads through the swamp, okay, and to all the fields, and the highway wasn't always paved. It was a beautiful white shell road. A camp road was a beautiful white shell road. And so I believe that they were used, those other 2 middens were used to make the roads. And it was an old Indian guy down here who told me, he goes, you know, there were 3. I thought about it. Well, tell me, I know exactly where. I know where because where we're buried. It's a steep slope going down to a spot. And then her daddy used to train his dog up at the point of the cemetery, and it was almost like a cliff. And he'd throw the dummy off, and the dog would go diving in after it. And we just thought that was the greatest fucking thing in the world. But never thought about why is there a cliff over here. And it was part of another one of the myths.
And also, live oaks always grow on the highest point in an area. You'll find that's where they're
They don't like their feet wet.
Yeah, and
they
also
like
how
their roots all the way up at the top.
I remember Murray saying that someone dated the midden mound to 2,000 years or something like that.
They definitely very old, and it's.
But to tell how old that tree is,
it's misrepresented as it's an Indian burial mound.
No.
There have been burials done on it, but it was pretty much the plantation people that did it. Grandpa's second wife was buried up there because that's where they wanted her. And but no, the old, like they used to have a bunch of the slaves' graves were all by the bayou, and that is all washed out.
Although the misnomer, burial mound, is usually applied to all hills left over by Native Americans, this pile could be more accurately termed a shell midden, which consists almost entirely of discarded shellfish. Florida, too, abounds in shell middens.
Almost like a shucking pile, maybe. And just building the mound, like I guess like the Aztecs or something over here, the Houmas. I don't know if it was the Houmas that far back, but I think they go back pretty far. Yeah, it's basically the clamshells that line the bayous. Rebecca showed you a picture of her daddy fishing, and got pictures of my mom and them fishing, and we got pictures of us fishing, and it's all on a shell beach, and you know, skipping shells. And over there you'd skip a lot of there was a lot of pottery. You'd find Indian pottery over there on the shell beach. And so I think that's absolutely where there was another midden, and I think it was
What tribe is this?
This is Houma.
Houma.
This is Houma, absolutely. And so like we talked about, a Houma burial is coming up, and that's just you know, if you're Houma and your family's in here, you're in, and you know, it's a multi-family process and all, but there were like guideline rules and stuff, and the Houmas absolutely prioritized on that, just because it's the right thing to do, and I think we'd probably piss them off pretty much too if we didn't. But more, it's just the right thing to do. And I guess we're stewards of this cemetery, you know, and we'll all pass. My grandfather, grandmother passed, my aunts and uncles have passed, and you know, and it gets passed on, and we hope that it continues like that, and that we continue to do the right thing for here, you know, and for this area.
The Houma are a Native American people who have historically inhabited the eastern side of Louisiana's Red River of the South. They are believed to have been a predominantly Muskegean-speaking tribe, whose descendants in more recent times largely spoke French Creole. Their descendants, the United Houma Nation, who number around 17,000, have been recognized by the state as a tribe since 1972, but are not recognized by the federal government.
What's also crazy is the federal government does not acknowledge all the Houma tribes, which is pretty amazing. But we do. I got a bunch of friends that are Houmas, and yeah, that's just what the population is down here, you know. And that's I like that. We don't have like violence and murders and carjackings and stuff like that down here, which is a good thing. Very, very proud of their heritage. Very, very proud of their traditions that they work very hard to keep going.
The city of Houma, meaning red, and the Red River were both named after this people. Oklahoma shares a similar etymology, as the root Huma means red in Choctaw and related Western Muskegean languages, including Houma. The war banner of the Houma people is a red crawfish. The Houma were granted land by the Spanish in the late 1700s, which had prohibited Indian slavery in 1764. They were never removed to a reservation, and, as a small tribe, were overlooked by the federal government during the Indian removal period of the 1830s. As a people without recognized communal land in the 20th century, they were considered to have lost their tribal status. After white Democrats regained power in Louisiana following the Reconstruction era, they passed laws establishing racial segregation. Despite their seemingly European features, this tribe was classified as free people of color and required to send their children to schools established for the children of freedmen. It was not until 1964, after the Civil Rights Act was passed, that Houma children were allowed to attend public school. We should note that when Hernando de Soto's conquistadors passed through the area around 1541, it seems they encountered an entirely different, darker-skinned people inhabiting the mouth of the Mississippi River. Garcilaso de la Vega published the following account in 1601. Then in the afternoon of the third day, they caught sight of 7 canoes, setting out toward them from some rushes, and they beheld an Indian, very different in aspect and color from those they had left inland, for he was as large as a Philistine, and as black as an Ethiopian. Standing in the prow of his canoe, this Indian shouted to the Castilians, in a gross and pompous voice, quote, "Thieves, vagabonds, and loiterers, who without honor or shame travel along this coast, disquieting its inhabitants, depart from this place immediately, by one of the 2 mouths of the river, if you do not want me to destroy you all and burn your ships. And see to it that I do not find you here tonight, for if I do, no man of you will escape with his life." The Spaniards were able to comprehend what this individual was saying by the many words which their servants interpreted, and by the gestures which he made with his arms and body as he pointed to the 2 entrances of the great river that formed the island which, as we have stated, lay ahead. But when he had spoken, the Indian, without awaiting a reply, returned to the rushes. At this place, Juan Coles reports the following words, in addition to those I have given. "If we possessed such large canoes as yours," he means to say ships, "we should follow you to your own land and conquer it, for we too are men like yourselves." End quote. Such an account is substantiated by the many bones of giant men uncovered from the mounds of the American Southeast between the Civil War and the Great Depression. The Reno Evening Gazette reported the following on the 22nd of June, 1933. Quote, "Skeletons of giants 12 feet high found. Southern workmen discover bones of prehistoric band who fell in battle." Winsboro, Louisiana. Skeletons of a race of giants who averaged 12 feet in height were found today by workmen engaged upon a drainage project at Crowville, near here. There are several score, at least, of the skeletons, and they lie in various positions. It is believed they were killed in a prehistoric fight, and that the bodies lay where they fell, until covered with alluvial deposits, due to the flooding of the Mississippi River. So far there has been no scientific examination of the bones, but a number of them were brought here, and it seems there is little doubt of the accuracy of the measurements. Many of the bones are broken, and several of the skulls are fractured, or crushed, giving the indications of the frightful ferocity with which the giants must have met death. End quote. The following was printed to the Morehouse Enterprise on March 28, 1940. It is the first-hand account of the man who at that time had the largest private collection of Native American remains and artifacts in the state of Louisiana. Quote, "Found 100 skeletons. I have uncovered 100 or more skeletons on this farm. In the center of the cemetery, was the evidence of a ceremonial fire. Charred joints of switch cane were easily identified. The bodies were all interred with the head toward this fire. Some of the skeletons were very large. In fact, they were giants. Some of the jawbones slipped readily over my lower jaw and touched my ear. There were a few that had been subjected to head deformation. This was practiced by some tribes. Their method was to bind board over the frontal bone of the infant's head, causing the skull to grow to the rear. The skulls could not by any stretch of the imagination be called highbrow. The elevation of the brow was about on par with that of an intelligent bird dog." End quote. Without drawing any racist conclusions, we may speculate as to which race's natural head shape would have inspired the deformation of skulls by other peoples in emulation of that skull shape. Elongated skulls, be they natural or artificial, also abound in the state of Florida. For those skeptical of potentially tall tales of amateur archaeology, I have included another article mentioning the Smithsonian's investigation of some of these bones. The Courier Journal reported the following on December 29, 1913. Quote, "There were giants in the earth in those days, 4,000 years or so ago in Palestine, according to the biblical account. And now comes the United States, with the skeletons of Indians to prove that Palestine had no monopoly in the great business. The sons of Anak may have been tall, but in Catahoma Parish, Louisiana, 2 members of the Smithsonian Institute exploring party have uncovered from 15 to 20 skeletons at Larta Lake, all of which are said to be more than 7 feet tall, which would be hard for the Anakim to beat. That this region was one of importance in the history of tribal migrations in America has long been maintained by investigators. At Natchez, on the Mississippi side of the Great River, is the locale that is asserted by some students of anthropology to be the original home of the Aztecs, who, they believe, went from the lower Mississippi Valley, either by water or by land, to Mexico and conquered, according to this theory, the original inhabitants of Mexico, gradually seizing the towns and fertile lands. The most interesting feature of the discovery at Larta Lake, however, is that very tall men actually did live in the southeastern part of the Mississippi region. No legends of giants have survived among the Indians, who remain in the territory, although among the Negroes their great stories are narrated about witches and demons and haunts, which they mean ghosts and devils. It is such discoveries as this, by the Smithsonian Party, that reveal how little is really known about the early history of North America before the white man came." End quote. In Florida, the bones of dozens, if not hundreds, of exceptionally sized skeletons were sent to the Smithsonian between 1850 and 1950, only to never be heard of again. Despite the mainstream media's efforts to debunk these accusations, it is a provable fact. For example, the bones of the famous Vero Man, widely regarded as Florida's greatest archaeological finding yet, were admittedly lost forever while in transit to the Smithsonian. One cannot deny that today, the Mississippi area still boasts some of the largest and blackest people that America has to offer. Despite what the history books tell us, black people come from America too. Since we are on the topic, when we examine the word cemetery, we find the word kemet, which was an ancient name for Egypt, meaning black land. Cemetery, as in cemetery. Notice the C at the beginning of cemetery could easily be pronounced cemetery. Kemet is where we get words like alchemy, chemistry, etc. It is from this root that we get the misleading terms black arts and black magic. For those familiar with the hidden history of pre-Columbian America, due to the overwhelming parallels between the Nile and the Mississippi rivers, there are many who believe the Mississippi River to be the true great river of Egyptian mythology, which was known as the River Isis. The word Mississippi bears the very name Isis within it, Mississippi. There are many people who are simply in denial of such a link. In closing, I would like to again quote Vice magazine's interview with Dave "Slut" Turgeon, an excerpt that I thought greatly encapsulated living in a place like New Orleans. Vice's interviewer mentioned to Turgeon that, quote, "Most people today know Henry Rollins as a motormouth. He pissed off the entire world by calling Robin Williams a coward for committing suicide." To which Dave replied, "Suicide is extremely personal to me. My godfather, super cop hero, blew his fucking head off. My sister killed herself. My best man killed himself the week before my son was born. My bass player hung himself on Mardi Gras Day." The interviewer notes that Dave is visibly emotional. Hatch Boy from Shell Shock, a good friend of mine, went down a beautiful row of oak trees down in Chalmette and blew his head off in a van. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? Why did you do that to me? And it makes me sick to hear people say how he's at peace, like it's some beautiful thing for him. Because in reality, what it does is, it shatters multiple lives. The last stupid mistake that you make. People who kill themselves, Dave begins to cry, destroy lives and people and affect them for the lifetime. The interviewer responds with, "I think the judgmental tone of Henry Rollins' piece is what pissed everyone off." Dave regains his composure. If you are a family member, the last thing you want to hear is that the person who checked out is a coward. But saying it's the coward's way out, I got no problem with Henry Rollins saying that. I feel sorry for the ones that chose the way out, but they leave us in a living hell, and to show it as a peaceful solution makes me fucking sick. If Henry Rollins saying, "fucking coward," stops even one little kid from thinking he's a bad motherfucker, Dave begins to cry again. I hope some kid looks at that and says, "I don't want to be no fucking punk." I mean, Robin Williams, you just checked out on your kid, man. Right now, I'm waiting for major back surgery, and I'm over here cutting fucking trees every day so my son's wedding will look nice when he's getting married. You'd do anything for your kid. And checking out, I'm really sorry Robin Williams' kid has to deal with that. I certainly don't want to judge him or his family, but I still get mad at all those people who check out on me." End quote.